Good evening, penny pincher farmers. Welcome back. This is the head. What do you call me?
Farm manager.
Farm manager. I'm the head farm manager. Guys, welcome back to the farm. Me and Dad's out here on this beautiful, hot Friday evening after a short work week, laying out a few paddocks. We're over in the far corner of the farm. This is what Dad calls the turkey field. This is the field that we don't have no perimeter fence around. So we run our poly braid around this field, and that serves as our perimeter fence. So guys, that just goes to show you the effectiveness of this electric poly braid, guys. And just to show you guys kind of how effective it is, me and Dad we kind of short-sighted ourselves and didn't bring enough post over here, we thought. So Dad come up with a very, I'm going to call it a simple-minded genius idea. And I'm going to show you guys, because you might find yourselves in a pinch where you don't have enough posts. So generally, we use 2 step-in posts to prop our electric perimeter fence up when we hang our reel on it, so that it don't weigh our fence down and cause it to sag and all that good stuff. So in this particular area, the bottom strand of our fence is what's electrified. The top barbed wire is not electrified. But like I said, we run out of post, and we only had 1 post, but we did have a good solid corner post here. And that top strand is a little thicker wire. It's barbed wire. And the bottom strand that's electric, I think it's just 15 or 17 gauge, pretty flimsy, just regular electric fence wire. So the idea that Dad had was to just prop up our last step-in post, tie it to the top. That way we could have the top strand tight. You can see there, it's still tight. It's not sagging nowhere. That's what you want. But what Dad done was run the poly braid around the bottom side of the electric fence and back up top and hung it on the barbed wire fence. So guys, if you're not familiar with these TerraBraid reels, TerraGate reels, if you wrap your poly braid around this electric or metal hook, I guess you could call it, that electrifies the hook. But if you don't wrap it around that and just leave it on the spool, that's not electrified. So therefore, we're not grounding our fence out. We're not grounding our electric fence by hooking it on a non-electrified fence. So guys, I hope that makes sense to you. Hope that might help somebody out. That's just a little trick that Dad just come up with off the cuff of his sleeve, and it works. You can see there's no bow in the fence. And just to prove our point here, I checked it before we started our video, like any good videographer would, just to make sure. Dad, hold this camera right here. I'm going to ground our tester out and bring it in right here. And we got a 6.9 voltage on this poly braid. TerraBraid. It's TerraBraid. I say poly braid, it's TerraBraid. It flipped to 7.5 there just for a second, guys. But that just goes to show you.
And it's plenty hot.
That just goes to show you, yeah, anybody that's fooled with electric fence, that'll keep them back. That'll keep them in. And like I said, guys, we use this as our perimeter fence. If they get behind this right here, there's nothing but air and opportunity. But to be honest with you, I shouldn't say this. Anybody knows this. We've never had a cow get out right here in this field by doing this method. So that's compliments to a good hot electric box. And I'm going to say it's a compliment to TerraBraid and TerraGate. That's the brand that we use simply because it's the cheapest. I know Poly Braid, they make a lot of reels. They make a lot of the wire that you see there, but ours is TerraGate brand. TerraBraid is what it's called, and TerraGate reels is what we use, guys. And I think we've not bought none in 2 years, but I think when we bought these reels, I think we got the reel fully loaded with the twine, I think for like 150 bucks. I think's what we paid for them. Like I said, I've not looked this year or in the last 2 years probably, but good chances they have went up, but they're a little more economical than the other brands seem like, and they work just as well. So what you got here, Dad? Dad's got his measuring stick out.
It's like 26 inches.
26 inches. Guys, I know it's hot everywhere.
It's here in the shade.
Yeah, I know it's hot everywhere, so that means it could possibly mean a couple different things. One, drought, obviously. And until this last 2 weeks here in Kentucky, eastern Kentucky anyway, we was same as drought conditions. It got to where we couldn't put these step-in posts in the ground, even in forage like this right here, guys. And when the ground's so hard you can't put a step-in post in, you know that it's getting dry. And you guys that know, you know. you know. But as I'm walking through here, guys, look at this forage. It's thick. If I was a agronomist, I'm pretty sure that's not a thing. But if I knew what all these plants and the diversity that I'm really looking at, guys, there's several, and I couldn't give you the name, but I can just see with my eye that there's many, many different plant species and types in this field. You can see here, we run out to the end there and just circle up and come back here and hook it to the electric fence, and we'll split this paddock in half. So we've really been trying to be very intentional about lessening our paddock sizes, just for the simple fact of getting more trample and more time in between rotations, to give a little more recovery period. But guys, you talk about hot weather, dry weather, it makes drought a very good possibility, like it was close to being. But in situations where you do get rain, like we've got a good amount of rain in the last 2 to 3 weeks here in eastern Kentucky anyway, and some pretty severe weather at times. But it brought a lot of good rain. And guys, since that, this forage has just went nuts. It has went crazy, guys. This is $1 million field right here. I mean, it is thick, and it is good forage. You get a lot of the taller stuff that gets brown and dead looking. But guys, that's fine. Don't freak out about that. Bush hog it if you want to, clip it if you want to, or leave it if you want to. That's what me and Dad was just having a conversation about, some of these weeds. And we come to the conclusion that the first frost, them weeds get taken care of then. So they'll make their way naturally to where they'll end up anyway if you do bush hog. And that's on the canopy floor there, protecting the soil and feeding the soil microbes, the earthworms, and all those good things that in return fertilize the soil and make more grass the next year. So the warm season grasses, guys, I've seen a lot of fields with Johnson grass starting to grow up, probably waist high. That's about my only warm season grass that I know of, other than Kentucky 31, that I can pick out. But guys, we got a little bit of 31 here over there in that corner where it's really, really dark green colored. That's about the best way I know to pick it out of the crowd, is it's a little deeper green than all the rest of the forages. But the Johnson grass and the Kentucky 31 fescue, guys, in this hot weather, it booms. It just flat grows. It likes warm weather. That's why it's a warm season grass. Right here's some Johnson grass, just a little bit of it, I think. Not really. I think that's 31. I think that's Kentucky 31 right there. Just a little bit, a thin patch of it. You guys comment down below if I'm wrong. I do not claim to be a plant scientist, for lack of the scientific term of what that's called. But guys, I do know good forage when I see it. I may not be able to call it by name, but I am very pleased to see what we got going on in this field right here. So guys, rest, recovery with a little bit of rain and sunshine. Guys, the good Lord will take care of the rest. That's just how he made it to do it. And if we will make our farming management practices to go along with God's plan instead of against it. Guys, we found here at Penny Pincher Farms, it just works a lot simpler. If you'll let the grass grow, graze it, give it time to recover, like the wild animals do, like the buffaloes did out in the plains. They would graze a spot and they would leave it, and it'd be a long time before they'd come back. And when they did come back, it was growed up better than it was when they found it the first time. So that's simply what we're trying to mimic here, guys, at Penny Pincher Farms, and that's what regenerative agriculture is all about, is mimicking nature. But we believe in good God Almighty here at Penny Pincher Farms, so we're trying to mimic how God made nature. So we take it one step further. We calve in the spring when we can and have control over that. That's when God has the deers and the elks and all the wild animals, the turkeys. That's when they have their babies. So that's when we try to have our babies too, here at Penny Pincher Farm.
You remember the last time we was in here, we divided this up into 2 paddocks. We give it a good trampling on both sides. And you can see here, we're coming back here approximately, what, 65, 70 days later?
I'd have to look for sure. I don't know that it's that long, but it's been a good month and a half anyway.
And you can't even tell we've even been in here yet this year.
No, and that's, guys, I literally right here in Jackson County, driving down the road, you still, in July, we just celebrated July the 4th, and there is people feeding hay to their cows. Guys, you can get away with that, I guess, in a good high cattle market like we got right now. But guys, that's not sustainable, and they may have a plan, and I hope they do, because feeding cows hay in July is not going to, it may work for a time, but it won't last. I can promise you that. The cost of inputs is too expensive to be feeding hay in July, and it may be. People may have a plan in mind. They may be planning on selling out and letting their farm rest all the winter, and that'd be okay too. Just as long as you get your animals off, while the growing season's still in good and hot. It's not going to do you a bit of good to pull your cows off your farm in October and expect the grass to grow back. It ain't. You're not going to gain nothing by doing that. But guys, just wanted to show you guys Dad's little trick here that he kind of made up off the cuff of his sleeve. You'll get creative, guys, when you're in a bind. You will. But hope you guys are doing well. Hope your grass is growing. Hoping if you started this rotational grazing business, hope that you've had good luck and are seeing some results. That's what keeps you fire lit. That's what makes you get out here on these hot days and set out paddocks when you could be sitting under the shade somewhere. Is when you do this stuff and you see the fruits of your labor. That's what makes it worth it. When you see it in your pocketbook, in your bank account, when you get to keep the money that your cows make instead of sending it to the Warner Fertilized plant or to the CPC Feeds factory. It's nice to keep it on Penny Pincher Farms instead of sending it away. But guys, we're gonna get out of here. This is Penny Pincher Farm. We're gonna let the grass grow and give God all the glory.